So the governor of Oklahoma has called for the resignation of the sheriff and other top officials in this rural county of Oklahoma after they were recorded talking about beating, killing, and burying a father and son team of local reporters, lamenting that they could no longer hang Black people with a damn rope. This is a sheriff. This is McCurtain County Sheriff Kevin Clardy, County Commissioner, elected official, Mark Jennings, the sheriff's investigator, Alicia Manning, was also there, as well as the jail administrator, Larry Hendricks. They've all been asked to step down. But I wonder how long they've done egregious things. You know, they wish they were in the land of cotton. Old times they're not forgotten. Look away, Dixieland. They want the old times to come back where you could just whoop somebody and then hang them. And then you just got away with it. Emmett Till wasn't the only person in the Tallahatchie River. I promise you. He's the only one with a mama from Chicago that was not having it. There were a lot of bodies buried in Mississippi that we never knew about. Snatched from their beds, and then no recourse, no place to go because the sheriff is in there on it. Those three that got killed, Cheney, Goodman, and Schwerner, the police were in on it. Viola Luozo, the police were in on it. The sheriff was in on it. Bull Connor wasn't an anomaly. He was just the most vocal, right? And we have Bull Connors. You think they went away? We have Bull Connors in every police department in America, not just in the South, California. We know about that too, right? So we don't stand a chance. You know, when we see cop lights, we have the I guess the good sense to be afraid, most of us. You know, well, if you weren't doing anything wrong, you don't have to be doing anything wrong. What were they doing wrong? They were reporting on corruption and injustice, and there were actual journalists that they're talking about.
And they are not the first, and will not be the last to get caught on tape, so to speak. You know, the power of cell phones and recordings and audio and video. You know, they say a picture's worth 1,000 words and a video is worth 1,000,000. And in this case, you know, an audio track to be more specific. But it's moments like this where we are reminded of the conversations that people are having behind closed doors. You know, we're more sophisticated now. Like most folk know better than to say something crazy publicly. Most folk, no matter how ill intent they are driven, no matter how, you know, egregious their feelings and thoughts, they know better. But then sometimes they get outed. And again, getting back to our earlier discussion, Karen, about how polarized the response is, some people hear the tape and say, oh, that's an outlier. Oh, that's the exception. Well, I know folks in the news media, and you probably know this, when they get one letter, they know that one letter speaks for thousands of people. So when I hear one tape that you just happen to not know that we were catching what you were saying, it speaks for more than one person. It's not an outlier. It's part of a pattern. You know, and to the point we had in our last segment about power, I looked up the numbers on Ferguson, because I cited it before. Ferguson, when Michael Brown got shot, was 67% Black. The police force, 94% white. City council, one Black person, and the mayor was white. Governed primarily by white people for a city that was 67% Black people. That is not shame on white people. That is shame on Black people.
Right. I mean, I remember talking about because the next election for the town council, I forgot, it's not called city council. They were, again, overrepresented by white people in a majority Black place. And they were also getting more tickets. So there was a fight by police, you know, and all that. They only picked up one additional seat, right? So they were still, and I was like, how y'all not coming out? Like, I think it was like 16% turnout or something. I mean, it was crazy.
Unfathomable.
You know, but I do think there is a culture of apathy in the face of abject poverty and powerlessness. I was reading this book Inflamed last 40 days ago. And it talked about how your brain is altered by the stress of poverty. And when you don't have enough to feed your, you know, when your bills aren't meeting, it's just all, it's not firing on solutions.
Trauma.
You will not have the time to sit and problem solve. It is in the moment, which is why some really bad decisions are made in poverty. Some really horrible decisions are made, but it's your fault, but it's not your fault because something goes haywire with your brain when you're in that situation. So I look at that as being not an excuse, but it is stunning to me that you could allow for that.
Mm-hmm.
And then you look at the president and you expect the president to do something when you could do something right here. I feel like people always are looking somewhere impossible when the possible is right in front of them.
It's just real. And I remember going to a presentation from a professor at Harvard on development, human development. And he drew this curve, a normal human development curve, which, it steadily increases and then it tapers off around 21, 22, 23, when you're fully, quote unquote, developed, which explains why we make a lot of bad decisions up until we're 21, 22, and 23. But then he showed the impact of traumatic experiences on development, which is poverty, malnourishment, abuse, neglect. And what it essentially does is not only does it dampen the curve, meaning the curve is not as steep, but it levels off at a point below where the normal curve levels off. So there's something real that you're giving voice to about how trauma, and there's lots of forms of trauma, can inhibit growth, can inhibit our human development, and poverty and circumstances that may be challenging are among them. Can you recover? Of course you can. Do you still have power? Of course you do. But let's be real, that circumstances that we find ourselves in have real implications for how our life trajectory has implications.
Now, I don't know what the excuse is for a man in his 80s, but that Cretan, who I'm not going to say his name, who shot Ralph Yarl in the head and body for ringing his doorbell, people are like, oh, he's old, so maybe we should give him a break.
No.
Like, absolutely not.
Quite the contrary.
Right, because you should know better, right?
Right.
And he admitted that he came to the door with his 32 and didn't even ask any questions. There was no conversation had between this 16-year-old boy who looks like a boy, slightly built boy, clean shaven boy, no clean. I don't even think he can grow hair on his face. Didn't have a conversation with him and opened fire.
Yeah. In
5 seconds. Didn't give him a chance to even say you have the wrong door. He should go under the jail. And there's a GoFundMe for Ralph Yarl that is now at, I just looked, $2.9 million. Mm-hmm. So the community is showing up for this family because his recovery, and he is going to recover, but I don't know, to be shot over the eye, don't know what that's going to require of him.
Yeah. And that's part of the pattern, what you described, this pattern of an overly aggressive, disproportionate response. You see it at fast food restaurants where somebody is unarmed and somehow people who are supposed to be trained to de-escalate, it ends up escalating. It's being pulled over and being asked to grab something from the glove box. You were told to grab it, and then they still pull a gun on you. Like, you just told me to reach into my glove box and you're still pulling a gun on me. And now it's walking your dog in Central Park. And now you're afraid of me when I'm minding my business. Let's be clear. I'm minding my business and you're afraid of me and calling the police. And now it's a young Black boy who walks up to your door and without a single conversation of humanity. I mean, because what I would expect you to do is ask, how can I help you? What I don't expect you to do is to have an aggressive, disproportionate response to me standing in front of you. Like, we've lost our way. And again, we talked about it earlier, and it is disproportionately happening to Black and brown people, but it's happening to not just Black and brown people, it's happening to all people. And that's two problems.
Right. I mean, I was actually surprised at the 20-year-old young lady that was shot and killed by going into the wrong driveway. I just assumed she was Black, and she's not. And I was like, but where the gun, it's like, there's no outrage. Y'all, what is happening? This is numb.